Hello and welcome everyone to this session on e-safety. Thank you for joining us today. We welcome any questions that may arise during the session. Please feel free to email me on our contacts on the next slide. I do urge everyone to take a moment after the event to reflect on what they've heard and please do get in touch with us because so many of the areas that we talk about are sensitive areas to do with safeguarding. So I'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Angie Rogers and I'm the subject specialist for teaching and learning here at NCFE. And there's my email. So should you have any questions regarding any of the content, please feel free to drop me a line. We're also joined here today by Kelly Johnson.
Hi everyone, it's a pleasure to be here today. And again, if you do have any questions, please do feel free to also contact me.
Thanks, Kelly. So we're going to have a look at what the intentions of this bite size is today. We're hoping to really engage with you today and highlight the changes to policy that may impact safeguarding and child protection. We'll be raising an awareness of topics such as e-safety and electronic devices, exploring how we can reflect on our workplace and implement measures to prevent harm. During the COVID pandemic, many of us became reliant on the use of technology as a way of communicating and working. Children and young people were thrown into situations that were often new in terms of attending lessons online and researching various information and connecting with others on new platforms. The internet has become an important element of a life for children and teenagers, such as the use of mobile phones, PCs, laptops, tablets, are all which are part of children and young people's online environment. And we can be used to access social media and online games, websites and apps. So our intention today is really to focus on how we can keep children safe online and learning about e-safety. We're often getting glimpses into people's homes on the internet through Teams meetings, various platforms, and we would never do this before. And children have become maybe more vulnerable positions on many occasions. It's important not to lose sight of how valuable the internet and online technologies are in today's society, and they provide new learning growth opportunities for children and young people. So we mustn't lose sight that actually there are so many benefits of using the new technologies, but at the same time being aware of that e-safety. It should be an integral aspect of safeguarding and child protection practices in schools and institutions. This BySite offers a way in which to teach children and young people about e-safety and having measures in place to support that e-safety in learning and how to protect yourself and those around you. So being one step ahead of this ever-changing world of technology is key in safeguarding and protecting children and young people from harm. So hopefully this bite size will support you in this through allowing you to reflect on how you can put those measures in place. So we're going to start with legislation and guideline updates. At present, there is an online safety bill which is regularly being reviewed that aims to form part of legislation to safeguard and protect children and young people and adults wherever they may access the internet. I'd like to draw your attention to one particular aspect of the bill surrounding online material that sadly contributed to the death of Molly Russell. In a recent inquest, Andrew Walker, his senior coroner, stated that the unsafe online material contributed to the death of Molly Russell. Sir Peter Wainless, NSPCC Chief Executive, said that Molly's family will forever have to pay the price of Meta and Pinterest's abject failure to protect her from the content no child should ever see. But the online safety bill is a once-in-a-generational opportunity to reverse this imbalance between families in the big tech. This must be a turning point, and further delay or watering down of the legislation that addresses preventable abuse of our children would be inconceivable to parents across the UK. Platforms likely to be accessed by children will also have a duty to protect young people using their services from illegal but harmful materials such as self-harm or eating disorder content. Additionally, providers who publish a place or place pornography content on their services will be required to prevent children from accessing that content. So it's really important here that we consider this bill, that everyone has an important part to play in keeping children safe. And it's vital that the tech companies are held accountable for children's online safety. The types of duties that will include these platforms to look at will be assessing whether their site is likely to be accessed by children or so protect children from harmful and inappropriate content, also preventing access to any adult content, using age verification technologies to prove the age of individuals that are viewing the items that they're putting on, protecting children against online harms such as cyberbullying and grooming, and making it easier for children and parents to report any harmful content they may encounter. And of course, reporting any child sexual exploitation and abuse content to the National Crime Agency. So the Online Safety Bill also supports the teaching of this e-safety in schools through the media literacy strategy, which is also reflected in the new RSHE Relationship, Sex and Health and Education introduced in 2020. So the Age Appropriate Design Code, also known commonly as the Children's Code, is a statutory data protection code of practice for online services, such as the apps, online games, the web, social media sites, which are likely to be accessed by children. And I'm going to also draw your attention to the updates recently on the Keeping Children Safe in Schools. In particular, if you have a look at the Annex F in this new document, you will be able to identify that these things have actually been added in there. And it talks about adding links to harmful online challenges. And online, this includes advice on preparing for online challenges and hosting and sharing information with parents and carers and where to get help and support. And also there's more information about reinforcing the importance of schools and colleges speaking with parents and carers about online safety, as well as providing clarity on the role of governors and others concerning the filtering and monitoring systems to ensure the effectiveness is regularly reviewed. All of these are really important updates that really do need to be looked at as part of keeping children safe online. So if we go on now to our next slide, we can look at the policies and procedures that are in place in schools. Are they working for you? You have to ask yourself those questions. What do you think could be added to those policies and procedures in your setting? I've worked across various sectors, including a range of nursery schools and colleges, and each have a different procedure in place. So it's important to recognise how each policy and procedure relates to the needs of your setting and those that use technology. Some practitioners and teachers thought their online presence was their own business, and others felt that it was part of their responsibility of working in the education and childcare sector to protect the setting online. But actually, it's important to remember that e-safety and policy procedures are everybody's responsibility. We must follow that legislation and guidance. They should also apply to all of the devices with the capacity to connect to the internet, and that includes the iPads that children may use or phones that they may have. This includes internet connected toys, for example. There are many toys within the settings that may connect to the internet, such as the TVs or watches, phones, laptops. And remember that technology and the online environment are constantly changing, and we need to keep up to date. E-safety policies and procedures should be regularly reviewed and updated as part of our overarching safeguarding measures. A whole school approach to reviewing these arrangements, including students, staff, volunteers and parents, is such good practice. And updating policies should be shared with and understood by all of those, including all staff, children and parents, carers, highlighting what has changed. There is a helpful self-assessment tool on the NSPCC website. The link has been provided on the screen. So please do access some of the links that we've provided. The NSPCC do offer a whole range of information that's really useful. So if we move on now to look at the types of digital communication, consider for a moment the various types of digital communication that you may have access or the children may have access to in your setting. You may have mentioned some of these: social networks, text messages, messaging apps, email, private messaging, online chats, comments on live streaming sites, voice chat games, which is a very common one. And there's so many within schools that we use as well now that offer that through literacy and numeracy. So it is so important for us to be aware of these. One important aspect that we do have a look at is risks. What are the risks of these to children and young people? It is so easy for children and young people to be bullied, cyberbullying online, emotionally abuse, the sexting, sexual abuse and sexual exploitation, and grooming. Perpetrators may use online platforms to build a trusting relationship with the child in order to abuse them. And this abuse may happen online, or the perpetrator may arrange to meet the child in person with the intention of abusing them. And it's really important that we stay on top of this and understand the types of digital communications that these young people are engaged in. One way of looking at the types of digital communication that you have is really sort of taking a moment and having a think about, well, let's have a look at these devices. Let's have a look at them in the setting. Let's think about ways in which we can change our policies and procedures in line with the new online bill, that, for example, that we talked about earlier. So do take a moment to have a look at those aspects. So if we move on now, teaching e-safety. As discussed previously, teaching safety is supported through the Media Literacy Strategy Framework, as well as through aspects of the curriculum, either through the EYFS or through schools and colleges curriculum. All would ensure children and young people are aware of staying safe online, the benefits and the dangers, and remember, there is so many benefits to being online, embracing technology, using it in various formats in different ways to enhance a particular subject, engaging resources with the children and using them in different ways that will suit that individual's needs. But we also need to think about that online bullying and the online abuse and signposting and making sure that we have got those protective measures in place. Relationship education is compulsory for all primary aged children. And these lessons are a vital part of really tapping into supporting children in terms of their usage online. Online safety and harms can be taught through all sorts of lessons. Think about being healthy, for example, respectful to one another. What could the impact of this online abuse have on individuals? How can we support one another? Thinking about the different types of needs that we're in that group. So it's important to display respectful behaviour online, and you are that role model. So it's important that we share this context together. Remember, it always has to be age appropriate. So whether it's EYFS or right the way through to 16, we need to make sure that we offer the right type of support for those children, and it has to be age appropriate, but also the diverse needs of children. And thinking about those with special educational needs, that you may need to adapt some of the e-learning depending on their particular need. Thank you, Kelly. So if we go on to teaching e-safety for colleagues, take a moment, consider you and other colleagues that are using online platforms. Think about your online profile or the presence that you offer. Lots of employers or employees look at this now before even employing people. They look at their profile. So think about for a moment, what does your profile look like? Where do you put your profile? What type of platforms do you use? And these are all things that we need to consider when we're working with children and young people. For example, Twitter, choosing protect my tweets so you can choose who you can follow is important. Geolocation services. How often do you check in? Could somebody know their daily routine or where they take their children on a regular basis? Online access for work purposes. Do they discuss the rules for websites? Can they visit on work devices? Is it clear whether Facebook or YouTube, etc., can be used in lunch breaks? Sometimes settings don't have that private space, so it's really important to consider where you use your phone at work. Reporting inappropriate content. Refer to the policies flowchart and discuss the importance of reporting any inappropriate content that you may unknowingly open. And if in doubt, always ask. Recommend they share the poster and pin it up next to any devices that they may use. Make sure they have a point of contact, somebody that they can turn to if they are in doubt. Think about that tablet usage. What agreements do they have in place? What can be accessed on that work tablet? Are they allowed to be taken home? Because sometimes this is an issue when staff take work devices out and do work at home. These are things that need to be considered. Think about the password protected. Do you have your own password or do you use a generic password? And always think about changing those passwords regularly. Depending on who's using that device, particularly, it needs to be considered about changing those passwords. And a top tip is to label mobile devices. In the setting that I worked in, we often had devices that different people would use. And I think it's important to keep track of who is using that device, who else is going to pick that up and what are they using it for. So that's really important. Ofsted inspectors will now conduct an internet search prior to coming to inspect your setting. So it's important to ask yourselves those questions. For example, have you ever Googled yourself? Have you ever Googled your setting? What is the profile? What does it look like? And are there any online complaints or concerns, etc.? Is their Facebook page private? Are photographs of children openly displayed? And do they monitor who likes their posts? All questions to be considered. How often do they talk about e-safety with their staff? Do they discuss it during induction, supervision, staff meetings, staff safeguarding notice boards? And another question, do you know about the filtering monitoring systems at your setting? One way that I found personally with highlighting particular aspects of e-safety would be to take an aspect of that e-safety, for example, online presence, profiling, and really have a staff meeting all geared up around that one topic. And if you break it down into small chunks, it really benefited everybody to understand, well, okay, let's think about this now. What is that online presence? Is that acceptable, what I'm writing about? Am I allowed to talk about the school on my own Facebook page and sharing information? So it's healthy to have those discussions. So let's go on to what do we do? Understanding and following policies and procedures, including filtering and monitoring systems. There are two different processes which complement each other. So the filtering system a school uses to restrict what access a child or young person may have to the internet. For example, blocking certain sites. Filtering should reduce the amount of access or exposure students have to harmful materials. And it should be an Internet Watch Foundation member and therefore block access to illegal child sexual abuse material. It should also integrate the police assessed list of unlawful terrorist content, but also manage content which may fall under any types of discrimination. So you should ask yourself these questions. Is the filtering age appropriate? How easy is it for students to bypass that filtering system? And believe me, children are very clever at doing things like that. How much control and say does the school have to permit or deny specific content? Can the user always be identified? Can apps or remote devices be filtered? And does the filter consider the use of different languages? And what reporting mechanism is offered? So really important questions to consider when we're talking about filtering. Now, monitoring is a very simple way of keeping an eye on what the students are doing. Now, this could be physical monitoring, where staff directly can monitor what the children are doing by, say, circulating a lesson, looking over the shoulder, identifying what they're accessing, but also software monitoring, often based on certain key searches or terms. And again, what should be monitored? Well, obviously illegal activity, bullying, child sexual exploitation, discrimination. So it's really good practice that we have a look at these systems that are in place within our schools. All staff should receive training and understand following risks, such as the technical risks, personal safety risks, the wellbeing risks, and be aware of how to help and support children and young people. So it's so important that we protect ourselves and we have these regular discussions, and also access any CPD. So keep yourself updated to any changes that are going on. But really do remember that there are so many benefits to being online. So we do need to ensure that we protect our children and young people. And it's important to consider how can you show evidence of the e-safety measures. And that goes back to looking at that filtering and monitoring. Consider the benefits is so important, like I said, and we will go and talk about this a little bit further on, that there are so many benefits for children being online. I'm going to go now to a case study that we have, and this case study talks about the dangers of sharing personal data. And this is about a 12-year-old girl who had inadvertently posted all her personal details from the new social media platform she had just downloaded. She added her real name, her age, location alongside various images, innocently wanting to create new friendships online. Sadly, this led to her personal data being viewed by an online predator. Fortunately, the police were already pursuing this predator and were able to intervene. They tracked down the young girl by using her location, which was on all of the time, and they were able to follow her home, track down where she lived, and they were able to discuss with her and her parents about the dangers of disclosing personal data. So it's really important when we consider that child will do things innocently, that they don't see there are any dangers in that. She just wanted to create that online presence and create that new friendship group. But having even like location, I mean, lucky for her, the police were able to be able to track her down and be able to keep her safe. But children are too open to give information away, even down to where they go to school, even what year group they're in. So it's really important that we think about that. And let's take a moment to consider the issues. So obviously sharing that information, but who to share that information with? Accidentally sharing that information. She did that innocently, and many children do, because they don't see the bigger picture. But quite often it's being tricked into sharing that information, as in this story here, where there are online predators that will pick on those and choose vulnerable individuals that could be easily swayed in believing that they are a real person. So how the parents could help protect? How could her parents have helped protect her? Well, it's about understanding the types of apps that are out there and the privacy settings. These must be reviewed regularly because they do change. But it's important to talk about that safety online and having open conversations with the children, as well as creating anonymous user names and protect those passwords. But as parents, having those conversations where you too would have access to that information. But monitor changes in the child's behaviour, and keeping those lines of communication open is absolutely key. Have healthy, open relationships. So let's look at lessons learned. Teach children about privacy and ways to keep personal data safe. It's important to be careful who they share details with. It's important that they stay anonymous. Review new apps and devices, making sure we read that small print, terms and conditions. Manage those appropriate passwords and review all privacy settings. And highlight what a positive digital footprint looks like. Please check out the resources on the NSPCC, as you will find many other useful information that you'll be able to tap into. So what do we look out for? Online child sexual exploitation includes a wide range of behaviours and situations. Most commonly, this includes grooming, live streaming, consuming child sexual abuse materials, and coercing and blackmailing children for sexual purposes. When sexual exploitation happens online, young people may be persuaded or forced to send or post sexual explicit images of themselves, take part in sexual activities via a webcam or smartphone, and have sexual conversations by text or online. This could include an adult engaging a child in a chat about sexual acts, an adult sending nude or pornographic images of themselves to a child, or exposing themselves via live streaming, asking a child to view pornography, images or video, asking a child to perform sexual acts, expose themselves or share sexual images, taking or making and sharing or showing indecent images of children. All of these need to be made aware of. The proposed online safety bill gives Ofcom the power to issue fines up to 18 million or 10% of an annual global turnover if they fail to comply with the requirements of forthcoming online safety legislation, which will include protecting children from sexual exploitation and abuse. It's important to have open, honest conversations and ensure children and young people feel comfortable in telling a trusted adult. Self-generated sexual content. Online child sexual exploitation is often thought of as adults abusing children. However, research indicates that more and more child exploitation material is being shared via social media and is being produced by children themselves. This is sometimes called self-generated sexual content and often takes the form of sexting, which is requesting, capturing and sharing of explicit material. A child may be or feel pressured, forced or coerced into taking and sharing these explicit images with their peers or their friends. The E-Safety Commissioner can also assist with the removal of sexual content that has been shared online of a young person or child. It's important to have those open and honest conversations. I'd like now to read case study 2, and this case study is about an 11-year-old girl called Grace. Grace lives with her mum and younger brother Callum. They have just moved to a new area where Grace has started at a new secondary school. Grace's dad is serving a prison sentence on the sex offenders register. At school, Grace feels lonely and isolated. and few of the children talk to her, and at break time she is left alone. After school, Grace goes on TikTok and Instagram to try and keep up with friends at her old school. However, Grace has increasingly been receiving unpleasant comments and messages from a number of children. Your dad's a pervert, Grace. You might as well just kill yourself now. Do it, Grace. Grace is finding it hard to ignore these messages. She feels a deep sense of shame and has thought about just doing what they tell her. Grace hasn't told her mum about them, as messages said horrifying things about her too, and Grace doesn't want her mum to be upset and crying all the time again. Besides, there's nothing her mum can do. Grace doesn't know who's sending the messages, as their accounts don't have pictures or any profile information. The messages and comments keep coming on Snapchat, TikTok, now WhatsApp too. Grace is experiencing self-loathing and has a very negative self-image and feels outside of everything. And yesterday, sadly, Grace made a suicide attempt. I want us to take a moment and think about the case study and how important early intervention is. There's 3 questions. Consider how the setting could support Grace in knowing the dangers. Thinking about the filtering and monitoring systems we talked about whilst at school, knowing about safety and the privacy settings that we've talked about, but also the e-learning, the e-safety through the relationship, sex and health education sessions at school. Think about the signs. What signs could you have looked out for in Grace's case? Thinking about the isolation, looking about mood swings, the changes in her moods, the changes in her eating habits, or other physical changes that may have occurred. And 3, what support could be offered to Grace and her family? And in this situation, the kind nurse at the hospital referred Grace to Bernardo's support service, and they've been helping her to process what's going on and working through how she can cope whilst being protective of her family. The service realises it's important for Grace to have autonomy and control, and also helping her to understand people's intentions. The service also worked with Grace's mum to help her understand how she can help Grace use social media safely. So all really important responses to how we all can support. It's not easy to know what our children are up to, or if anything is bothering them. But these are some of the signs that indicate that something is wrong, and you should speak to the child. Consider the unexplained relationships with older children or older people they may have. A change in the use of words or language that they may be using. Showing sexual behaviours which is not in line with their age or stage of development. And think about changes in their online habits. How much time are they spending? Do they shut themselves away in their rooms? Do they hide what they've got on their phones, hide them under their jumpers? They have unexplained gifts, expensive clothes, mobile phones even. Unexplained money or frequency taking part in an activity that requires money. The changes in their mood and their behaviour, and this includes eating habits, and this could be overeating or undereating. Are they fatigued? Are they always feeling tired? Do they stay up too late on their phones? Or do they stay out late, not returning home? Consider the change in their appearance. Do they use other people's clothes? And are they dipping out from school? Truancy. Check the attendance online. Or are they taking any types of drugs or drinking alcohol? Smoking. Safeguarding children is everybody's responsibility. We must consider the changes in behaviour in the relationships, such as in Molly Russell's case. It's important to consider children and young people particular needs, such as those with SEND, that may make them more vulnerable. It's essential that every business providing services that children might use take steps to protect them from the child's sexual abuse. The National Crime Agency believes that there are likely to be 550,000 to 850,000 UK individuals posing varying degrees of sexual risk to children. The NSPCC estimates that 1 in 20 children in the UK have been sexually abused. In 2020, the Internet Watch Foundation assessed 153,383 reports, which they confirmed contained child sexual abuse material. This is a 16% increase from 2019. So it's important to consider what's going on out there. What are the new trends? We need to consider why are devices such as smartwatches and drones not appropriate. Although they don't have a camera facility, you can receive pictures and messages. You could get an inappropriate message flash up in front of the child. Sometimes they have recording the capabilities on them, which means you can record the children or a private conversation. And they can be connected to other devices, such as your mobile device. And 50% of all smartwatches on the market have a camera facility. So it's important to consider what's out there, and also what other new social media apps are there. What's going on out there? The top 7 for 2020 of new media is Be Real, Supernova, TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, Discord, and the Metaverse. You may not have heard of these before, but Be Real was launched in 2020. And at a different time each day, all users are notified simultaneously to capture and share a photo within a 2-minute window. It's a little like Snapchat, but it's more casual than Instagram, and it has no filters and no edits. Be Real have positioned themselves as the new unique way to discover who your connections really are. The app doesn't currently offer pay-to-play advertising options, and its popularity is fast growing, with 315% increase in downloads since the beginning of the year. Supernova claims to be the social network that gives back. They have pledged to donate 60% of the advertising revenue to the global charities, with the money distributed according to the user's preference. Users can nominate in their profile which charitable cause they would want to support. And Supernova could be the platform to offer brands an alternative to toxic social media. TikTok. With more than 1 billion global users, TikTok is no longer a challenger in the game, but is a well-established platform. The platform user base is aging up to 42% of users now aged between 30 and 49. If this trend continues, we could see something like the boomer take over Facebook. Instagram. It was created in 2010 and bought by Facebook, now Meta, in 2012. Last year, Adam Mosseri, Photo Shade, the head of Instagram, made it clear that they want to move away from being the sharing app and instead video space with TikTok and YouTube. Twitch is a live streaming platform mostly used by gamers to stream gameplay or to watch other games. Users can interact and engage with live streams or upload videos to Twitch for their audience. Discord is like Twitch. Discord started life in 2015 as a platform dominated by gamers, but now has spread to a broader audience. Once they have an invitation, users enter a forum like Space where they can communicate with each other by voice or video calls, messaging and sending media, either among communities, known as servers, or private chats. Metaverse. The metaverse is the internet but in 3D, a virtual world where users share experiences and interact in a real time within simulated scenarios. And I'm sure there will be more in the future that we're going to have to learn about and get used to. And it's really important that having that knowledge about what children are using is really important. Nearly all children went online in 2021. The majority used a mobile phone or tablet to do so. More than a third of primary school aged children did not always have access to adequate devices. Online learning at home. compared to 17% of secondary age children. 1 in 10 primary age children rarely never accessed, compared to 3% in secondary. It's important to consider the online behaviours. When children are using video sharing platforms such as YouTube and TikTok, particularly between the ages of 3 to 17-year-olds. YouTube is also the most widely used for children compared to using TikTok, but TikTok is still more popular for posting the content. So what can we do? We need to ask ourselves. Okay, so we need to ask ourselves what to do. Keeping up to date with new legislation, understanding and following policies and procedures is absolutely key. The UK Council for Internet Safety produced a framework to equip children and young people for digital life with 8 key aspects. 1. Self-image and identity. So exploring differences between online and offline identity. 2. Online relationships. Explores how tech shapes communication styles and identifies strategies for positive and communication online. 3. Online reputation. Explores the concept and reputation and how others may use online information. 4. Online bullying. Exploring bullying and online aggression and how tech impacts these. 5. Managing online behaviour, so exploring how online information is found and viewed and interpreted. 6. Looking at the health and well-being and lifestyles. This explores the impact of tech on our health and well-being. 7. Privacy and security. Again, we talked about this, so this is exploring how personal data can be used, stored and shared. And 8. Copyright and ownership. So exploring the concept of ownership of online content. So it's really important to understand those aspects of the UK Council for Internet Safety, but also your own knowledge. You could go on and do some CPD training yourself, but also seek support from those colleagues around you. And thinking about the digital resilience framework and be respectful to others. When we look at the digital resilience framework, this is a dynamic personality asset that grows from the digital activity. It's important that we have that understanding when they may be at risk. Also to know what to do, when and where to seek support, but to learn from our experiences and how to make those changes. And also to recover when things go wrong, to online through accessing the right type of help and support. So managers from early years may have access to support and guidance with relevant links to the UK Council and the Internet Safety documents called the Safeguarding Children and Protecting Professionals in Early Years. The document identifies the following areas for managers to consider: policies and procedures in line with statutory guidance, infrastructure and technology, education and training, standards and monitoring, and it clearly identifies the role of the manager and the role of their staff. But other online resources for early years include the NSPCC PANTS campaign and the Pantosaurus song, Kiddle search engine, Google's children's version, so safe sites for children to search on, YouTube Kids, child-friendly app, children should not come across any inappropriate material on this version, and Smarty the Penguin, e-safety resources based around Smarty the Penguin for EYFS. But older children and young people may also access their information on CBBC, on the Newsround Special, but also Safer Internet sites and online safety leaflets on Internet Matters. But there are also information for those with SEND, and it's important to take account of children and young people's individual needs, particularly around SEND, ensuring that they are offered appropriate support and guidance to keep them safe online. There are a wide variety of resources to be found on the NSPCC link that is attached to this PowerPoint. We can also think about the Think You Know website, where it gives information about stranger danger, checking your privacy, remember posting, how and what to post, creating strong passwords, never revealing information, being aware of fake news, and being respectful to others. Remembering our lives on social media aren't the full story, and know how to block or report and recognise when it's time to log off. So please do check out the links that are provided and show an awareness of Safety Internet Day, which is on the 7th of February 2023. And if you have a look on the Safety Internet site, there will be lots of information and resources that you'll be able to tap into. So let's just consider for a moment and have a little reflection about what we've learned today. Think about the key takeaways that you've had today from this session, thinking about what's changed, what's new, what's updated, thinking about that online safety bill, thinking about what systems are in place at your schools, thinking about those filtering and monitoring systems, thinking about what you will do next, what you will do personally, but also what you will do to safeguard yourself, your colleagues, and the children and young people that you work with. And what impact will this have? Thinking about how, by putting these safety measures in place, how that you can make children more resilient to what's going on. Considering the changes that you may make. Helping parents and others and carers to support their children. But also how this will benefit the actual learner themselves. Having those open conversations and being more in tune to what's going on digitally will really help them and guide them. And remember that it's not all bad on the internet. You know, there are so many benefits to using the internet, and we need to focus on that. But we do need to make sure that we do place e-safety as a top priority. There's plenty of support and guidance that's available, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to find some of these links that we've placed on here useful. So please do tap in to many of the useful information, and remember Safety Internet Day on the 7th of February. Thank you ever so much for listening, and please do drop Kelly or myself an email at any point should you wish to have any questions regarding any topics that we've talked about today. We will be raising an awareness of topics more so in some other bite sizes that we've got coming up. So please do tap into some of the other safeguarding bite sizes that we offer. Thank you. We will be looking at child and child abuse. We will also be looking at child abuse linked to faith and belief, also wider forms of child abuse, prevent duty and radicalisation, domestic abuse and county lines. But please do, for more information, look on our events page and register on the Quell Hub. Thank you very much.